Hey friends, I said a while back that I was going to give you a tour of my lab, so hey, let's do it. Um, just to get your expectations down a little bit. This is not some gigantic Frankenstein's lab sort of situation here. I'm at a small liberal arts university, and so I have a small lab. It's about 3.5 meters wide by, what is it? Almost 10 meters long, so it's basically just a big long box. But this is pretty good. If I were at a Research 1 university, and I've worked there before, you'd expect a much larger lab with a lot of extra space, because you'd be anticipating having technicians, postdocs, graduate students, and undergraduates working in the lab, so you'd need a much bigger space. Here, I just need space for me and maybe one or two undergraduates at a time. So this is an appropriate amount of space. In some ways, it's pretty good. When I was interviewing for jobs, I saw lots of different universities, and they ranged all over the place. So as I said, a Research 1 university would give you a big sprawling space with multiple offices and multiple little rooms for special purposes and things like that. On the other end of the spectrum, I visited some small liberal arts universities where no, you didn't get any lab space at all for yourself. You just used the student labs for your own research. So this is kind of a step up from that. Anyway, it's a fine little lab. I've been very happy here. It contains all the stuff I need. So let's just take a walk down here and I'll tell you what we've got. So, let's see. This used to be a fish lab. So over there, where you see those boxes and that light, that was a great big tall rack of fish tanks. That's gone now. This was a little inadequate space for what you need for fish, but it seems to be about right for what you need for spiders. So had that big thing over there. That's been replaced. I also had this tank right here. This was the retirement tank. So I'm the kind of person who does not like to kill animals. So when fish became unproductive, instead of euthanizing them, I moved them into this tank, which is a nice, lovely place with bubbling water and filtration and all this kind of thing. Once upon a time, and I would just let them live there until they died a natural death. Yeah, I'm a softie. Anyway, no fish anymore, so I shut that down after the last of them died off. I have plans, though. I'm going to be scrubbing this out this summer, and taking it home and just taking a hose to it and thoroughly rinsing it out and cleaning it up. I think it would be a lovely place to keep a large spider like a tarantula. I thought about maybe some local spiders, but local spiders are much smaller and they wouldn't jump out at you as being particularly spectacular. But hey, this would be a perfect place to keep a tarantula. I would just have to get one. So that's down the road. I have lots of plans for down the road. Okay, let's see what else we got over here. Over here, this is baby spider space. So you can see I have a couple of incubators there. They're set to 29 degrees centigrade. I have a lot of racks like these. I have test tubes. When we get the babies, we first start with them in here, and then we might move them to some larger spaces as they get bigger. It's empty right now. Why is it empty? It's because my last generation of spiders grew up and I've moved them into the bigger cages that are behind me right now. But I'm planning to fill this up with more spiders. This rack is all ready to go, as you can see. I just need to go find some spiders and throw lots of spiders in there and get some egg sacs and all that kind of cool stuff and get those going. One of the things I have discovered in the past year or two is that you can never have enough spiders. So this past year we had a significant slowdown in mid-year because we just didn't have enough spiders producing egg sacs. So I really want to increase the number of spiders I keep in here. Okay. Oh, fly bottles. Yeah, we have to feed the spiders. So I have fly bottles here. That's the working population. I tap into those to feed all the spiders. And then there's another set of bottles upstairs in a warm incubator. These grow just fine at room temperature. They're a little slower. But as you can see, I set up a bunch of them. And so there's always enough flies to feed the spiders. Okay, over here, what have I got? I got a slightly cluttered space right now. This is where undergraduates would get some space. They could sit over here. There's a bunch of spider cages and more fly bottles. These are kind of old fly bottles. They need to be washed out, so I'll be doing that soon. And here's all the spider cages. I think what I need to do is roughly double the number of cages that I've got. So that's in the works. I'm planning on doing that. Just gonna have to spend a little money and get a bunch more of these simple little containers. And as you might see, here's one that's empty, so I can show you. These are simple little plastic containers, and inside I have a little wooden frame because the spiders need something to crawl on to build webs around, and that allows me to just pull them out. It's kind of neat because the spiders would be sitting in there and they don't care. You just lift them out, web and all, and you can examine them with a little more precision and get good pictures and things like that. So I also have to make some more of those little frames. They're easy. And right now, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 14 spiders, which is, as I said, is not enough. I'd really like to get that up around 30 to 40 cages. I can see all the spiders in there. This probably doesn't have the resolution that you see them, but like, yeah, see there? Look at that guy just hanging out there. So increasing the number of spiders is a priority for this summer. We're just going to do a collecting trip. I've got some breeding pairs in here. I hope we get some egg sacs soon, and we'll just vastly increase the spider population here in this lab. Like every lab should have that. Let's see over here. Well, those are cages that need to be cleaned and some bottles. So these are X spiders. Yeah, they die on me. Typically these spiders live about 2 years. They start fading out on me after about a year. So we have to maintain a continuous population, a growing population of spiders. As I said, this past year, they sort of started to fade away on me in January because they were just all dying off and not producing eggs. And so I wasn't able to replenish the population. Okay, what about over here? Let's see, what have we got over here? Oh yeah, this, if I were pretentious, I would call this my maker space. This is where I would construct those wooden frames. I've got some basic stuff like a Dremel tool and hot glue gun. Hot glue is great for assembling these little things. And you see some fly food stuff and handy little brackets and things for mounting cameras or holding on to things. Yeah, you know, really a basic maker's space. Oh, and string and tape. Yes, you need string and tape. And sticks. Lots of sticks and dowels and things like that. Up above, there's some shelves. What have I got on those shelves? I got all kinds of things. More leftover bits and pieces. These over here, these are relics from my fish days. We use these little wooden frames, these little plastic frames for collecting eggs. I got some reagents up here. Oh yeah, this is expensive stuff, but it's kind of cool. Halocarbon oil. Oxygen is freely soluble in it, and so you can drop that on your little embryos and they're able to breathe. They don't suffocate, and they're kept moist while they're on the microscope. Yeah, basic stuff over here. A balance, a microwave, an extinct computer that I have to get out of here. So this will be going away. No use in that anymore. So yeah, who wants, what is that? Oh, it's a Dell. Okay. Anyway, got that. Then over here on the other side, this is my photography space. So as you can see, I got lots of little lights all over the place. I got tripods. I use this for holding lights in peculiar positions. As you all know, most important thing in photography is the lighting. Got to get the lighting just right. So I play around with that a bit. But this is where I would put specimens that I wanted to just photograph freehand with the camera. You'll also see these little colored mats all over the place. You can guess what those are for. I can pick background colors just by placing those under there. For that work, I have a couple of lenses over here. Here's just a simple macro lens. It is outfitted with a couple of tube extenders to give me the extra magnification. This thing, I am still trying to figure out how to use this. This is a 2.5 to 5x ultra macro lens. If you look at it, it looks like a bloated microscope objective, and it's kind of cool. Fits on my camera. I haven't found it very useful in the field though, because it's finicky. Yeah, you got to get in just the right position to take a photograph, but it works okay here in the lab. So I've got that. Oh, labeling tape, razor blades, forceps. This is where I would be working on embryos, especially here under this scope. So this is my Vild M3C. I kind of like this scope. It is so sweet. It's only about 20 years old or so. So no, make that 30 years old. But it's just been a real workhorse. It's very reliable, really nice to use. I fitted it with this goofy little epi illuminations rig. I've also got the fiber optic, and it works well. On top of it, I have my Canon. This just kind of blows me away. The Canon that's just a home grade camera setup. I got one when I had to photograph my daughter's wedding, for instance. So it's nothing too expensive. It's kind of nice. This replaces a custom imaging setup that I bought, a scientific imaging setup that wasn't as high a resolution, wasn't as easy to use, wasn't as clean, wasn't as simple. Spent a lot of money on that, and then I replaced it all with just this camera setup. And this is so much better. I really, really like it. Also, it's kind of flexible because I can just pick this up, take it off of here, and put it on the other microscope. So it's pretty powerful that way. Also, Canon software. I'm in love with Canon software. So you'll see there's a USB cable that goes to that little Mac over there. The Canon software is almost perfect for scientific uses. You know, it's got a little preview window. You can just put it on there. You can see what you're focusing on. You click a button, you take a picture. And it archives everything for you. It's really sweet. The only thing it's lacking is I don't have automatic scale calibration. The old scientific imaging software, that's kind of a default. And this does not do that. So I have to paste in my scale bars afterwards. Small step, but it's okay. This over here, that is my Leica scope. It's a great big monster of a scope. Does everything. We've got DIC, so Microscopy DIC on this. We've got epifluorescence, that's what this is over here, so I can do fluorescence imaging, I can do Microscopy imaging, I can do bright field imaging. Anything I want to do here, I can do pretty routinely with this rig. So this is another thing about small liberal arts universities. You don't often have a lot of money, and this is an expensive scope. This was actually purchased by institutional funds. It is dedicated to its purpose in this lab. So this is kind of also our microscopy imaging lab. So this is a shared instrument used by everybody in the biology discipline. So, but that's fine. I'm happy to share this stuff. It just means I'm also responsible for maintaining it. Yeah. But good scope. I've been having a grand time with that. Okay, over here. See that big black box? Not very exciting. That is a light box. So what we have is all these foam core boards built into a lovely little box. So we can put spiders and cages inside of there. And then on top you can see there's a lamp that's hooked up to a timer, so we can put it on any kind of cycle we want. So you put a spider in there and you tell it when it's night and day, and it just goes, and the spider can do all of its thing. We did this because one of our interests was that during the day the spiders are kind of quiet. They just sit there staying out of mischief. But come the evening, they start building their webs. So if you're interested in web building, yeah, you got to do something like this to set up an arrangement where you can trick them into thinking it's nighttime. And then, of course, what you also need is back over in here. It's hard to see, but there's a Raspberry Pi with a no IR camera hooked up to it that hangs over the spider cage. So we can run this and watch our spiders do their things in the dark. And we've done some preliminary stuff with that. We haven't done a thorough quantitative study yet, but I can tell you that spiders have crappy circadian rhythms. They'll sit around all day, and every once in a while they'll burst into a little bit of behavior, and they do the same thing at night. So spiders don't really sleep well. But then that figures. They're ambush predators. If something stumbles into their web at 2 a.m., they're going to jump up and eat it. If it stumbles in at midnight, noon, whatever, you got to be ready to jump in there. So that's all set up over there. That's a future project for students. So that's kind of where I'm at. This is the lab. I think it's a nice space. It's very comfortable for one PI and maybe 2 undergraduates at a time. I can usually accommodate maybe 2 students. But that's all I generally get here at Morris. It's not typical. Also, it turns out that when I was working with fish, they were much more popular with students than spiders. Gotta go figure, I don't know why. Anyway, that's the lab. That's the state of things. That's where I'm at this summer. One big goal is just to get more spiders and fill up these cages and more. Okay, well, I have an announcement to make. So this is specifically for my followers on Patreon. I much appreciate your support. It's helped out a lot in the last couple of years. The Patreon was initially set up because we had this massive legal debt we had to pay off. And so all the money up until now that has come in from Patreon has gone exclusively, entirely, completely to paying off the lawyer. So thank you very much for sending it in. It's been a great big help, but it's all gone to a lawyer. I hate that, but that's the way it works. Anyway, so it all got sent off to the lawyer, but as I announced this week, we have completely paid off our legal debt. So that is done. Yeah. The revenue from Patreon no longer has to go to a lawyer. Instead, it goes to me, which means there's been a little bit of a change. So I just want to say, if you signed up specifically to help me pay off that stupid legal debt from the carrier thing, don't feel bad if you feel like, now, well, I've done my job, now I can leave. Yes, I will not hold it against anyone if you say, okay, I'm through. If you want to withdraw from the Patreon, no complaints, just thanks for all your support all this time. On the other hand, I have plans. If I've got this kind of steady revenue stream from Patreon, there's a bunch of things that I want to do. Some of it's just fun and trivial, like I mentioned back there. I want to put a tarantula in that big terrarium. Yeah, you could help me do that. I will, if I can, I will do that this summer. I mentioned that I need to expand my spider cages a lot. So I need to get a lot more of those. So that's another thing that money will be going into is doing all that. As I expand the number of spiders, I also have to expand the amount I spend on maintenance. It's a little bit of a concern, but it turns out bugs are cheap. The flies are basically free at this point because I just keep breeding them and get lots and lots of flies and feed the family over there with those. But then as the spiders get bigger, they kind of get a taste for larger game. So I also have to make a weekly trip down to the local bait shop. Yeah, they're getting used to me coming down there. And I get waxworms, for instance. Spiders love waxworms. I'm also raising mealworms at home. Yeah, that's my house. We've got a big mealworm facility in there, but that's okay. So yeah, we've got maintenance to do on these sorts of things. I'm also planning some expeditions this summer. So we're going to get out and visit a few places around Minnesota. In particular, I'm looking for derelict farms. Yeah, old barns are really interesting and spiders love them. So I've got to go out and do that. I am working with the University of Ghent on a little project. They're sampling cross spiders. So we're doing transects in Morris and St. Cloud, estimating and measuring spiders of this particular genus that we find out there. So that's going to take up some time and some effort. So I'll be doing that. What else have I got? Oh, I have so many projects. One of the big projects I want to do is a developmental biology project. So I've been noticing that there are patterns in spider embryos. So I'd like to look into that. and do a cross-species comparison. So we got these closely related, now sort of closely, they're only separated by millions of years. These closely related species, Steatota borealis, Steatota triangulosa, and Parasteatota tepidariorum, which have recognizably different pigment patterns on their abdomens, yet they're related. So one of the things I want to do is I want to look at early expression of pigment cells in their abdomens to see if there is a pre-pattern, a common pre-pattern that they all build on. Those of you familiar with Nijat's work on foci and butterfly wings, Sean Carroll also popularized this a bit in one of his books. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for. Is there a specific underlying pattern that we can recognize in these different spider species that they then expand upon in unique species-specific ways? So that's a developmental biology project that I'm hoping to work with a student over the fall and winter on. It ought to be doable. Maybe there's no pre-pattern. I don't know. We have to look. We'll see. So we'll learn new things no matter what. So that's one big project I have in mind. The others I mentioned, like the halocarbon oil and all that stuff, that's useful for studying early embryos. So the idea would be to collect eggs, isolate the embryos, put them in halocarbon oil, put them on the big microscope that you see behind me, and just see how they develop. They're I've seen a little bit of it. It's kind of neat how they sprout those 8 legs early on. 8 legs, chelicerae, palps, all that stuff come out fairly early. And I was about to say quite pretty, but I guess some people wouldn't find it that pretty. Anyway, that's one of the things I want to explore there. Also, as usual, hey, photography is expensive. It's an expensive hobby. So I've got a few things I've been working on. I mentioned, like, this lovely lens. I really have to master using this so I can get some more better, prettier close-up photos of my developing spiders. So that's in progress. I had a student last fall who was really interested in the circadian rhythm stuff. I worked with him to set up this box and the Raspberry Pi and all that. It's kind of underexploited right now. So I want to work some more on that this fall. So the lab is going to be busy. And as you know, a little money always helps with these sorts of things. It means I don't have to panic if something breaks, or if I see some cool new gadget that would actually make life much easier for us. There's some software for circadian rhythm analysis, for instance, I've been kind of eyeballing. But until I get a student who's actually working on it, there's no point in getting it just yet. So, lots of things in store. Now, for you guys, I am planning to document everything. I would like to do more video work on what's going on in the lab, the experiments that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing more video work on what we're doing out in the field. So as I mentioned, this project where we're doing a transect and looking at cross spiders, hey, I think that would be a good subject for a short video. Yeah, let's just go cruising around, find a bunch of spider webs. This project involves measuring the spider webs, measuring the spiders, mapping their locations, all that kind of good stuff. So there's things like that I could do. I also want to make some more just general science videos that might be of interest to a broader audience, even an arachnophobic audience. So there's things happening. We'll be working on it. So if you continue your support, I will greatly appreciate it. I will use it. The funds won't be spent on fripperies. It's all going into the lab now. So that's a change. I just have to warn you about it. It's a change from funding a legal battle to funding a research lab. That's my dream. Okay, so again, thank you for paying attention to me for this long, for supporting me for this long. I have more things in plan for the future, so stay tuned, and we will talk to you all later.